One day, Rosie and 87546 were at the station. "Is this a lovely day?" asked Rosie. "It sure is," said 87546. Then they heard a whistle, which worried them. "Get out of my way," said Alfred. "I have unfinished business, and I want to finish it fast." "Who was that?" said Rosie curiously. "That was Alfred," replied 87546. "Oh, you mean that engine who bullied Philip one time was the same one that zoomed by us?" said Rosie. "I guess so," puffed 87546 as he and Rosie left the station. At an abandoned rail yard, Alfred was coming up with his next devious plot with his henchmen. "Boys, we've got something to do," said Alfred. "What is it?" asked Splatter. "We're all going to exact our revenge on that doofus named Rosie," Alfred sniffed. "And what of 87546? added Dodge. "We'll sway him to our side," said George. "Nice idea," said Alfred. "George, when me, Splatter, and Dodge get back with Rosie, guard her for me," he added. "All right," replied George. Later, Rosie and 87546 were exchanging passengers with Georgie. Do you happen to know, Alfred?" asked 87546. "Yes," puffed Georgie. "He's been nothing but rude and abusive with me when we were on the LNER," she said. "So, why have you chose to reform?" asked Rosie. "Well," said 87546. "While I was at my shed in disgrace, Hazel, one of Alfred's 2 surviving sisters, came up to me," I puffed. "She told me it doesn't matter whether you're a steam engine or a diesel engine, but what does matter is how your attitude goes." "Then," I said, "Hazel told me to look on the bright side of things and to think positively. That made me happy. That is why I've been nicer to my fellow engines as of now," said 87546. "Wow, I liked that story," said Rosie. "If Alfred comes here with any henchmen, please let me do most of the talking," puffed 87546. "Oh no," said 87546 when he heard a whistle. It worried Rosie and Georgie. Alfred had come in with Splatter and Dodge. Well, said 87546. After many decades, we meet again, Alfred. What are you doing lumbering behind Rosie? Snapped Alfred. She's my best friend now, you green buffoon, said 87546. Oh, you're so deluded, 87546, said Dodge. What he said, replied Splatter. Dodge, take Rosie away, puffed Alfred. After he came back from being on a turntable, Dodge coupled up behind Rosie. Let's move it! Alfred barked. Then they left, unaware that 87546 was chasing them. Get back here with my best friend, puffed 87546. No, we're holding her hostage, said Alfred. Let her go now, snapped 87546. No, not until you rejoin my side, said Alfred. 87546 thought for a while. All right, I'll rejoin you, only if you let Rosie go, said 87546. After Dodge released her, 87546 buffered up to Rosie and took her with him. Rosie's gone because 87546 took her, said George. What? Curse you, 87546! Snapped Alfred. That was clever of you to trick Alfred and his cronies like that, said Rosie. It was great, said 87546 in return. Both Rosie and 87546 agreed on a plan to stop Alfred and his henchmen. So boss, said Dodge. How come Rosie escaped? Asked Splatter. We did nicely, but 87546 got in the way, growled Alfred. How about we get him when Rosie's is not looking, said George. Later, Thomas derailed a flatbed and it hit the shed. Wait, what? Said Dodge as the roof fell on the villains. Boss, did he intend to let the roof fall in? Said Dodge. I always mean what I do, you idiots! Said Alfred. The next day, Rosie and 87546 were getting fired up. That was a funny day yesterday, puffed Rosie. It sure was, said 87546. That's one reason why we're best friends forever. You're very clever, said Rosie. Alfred and his 3 henchmen were coming up with a new scheme. Rosie escaped us once, but not this time, snarled Alfred. We're going to get at her, added George. Agreed, continued Splatter. Later, Rosie and 87546 were taking a special train when Splatter and Dodge pulled up alongside them. What is the meaning of this? Said Rosie crossly. Alfred and George were in the way. This plan won't backfire this time, said Alfred. I'm not going with you dummies, 87546 said to Alfred and his henchmen. The two engines whooshed steam at the villains before bumping Alfred. He crashed into a box van. Oh no, he said. Then squashed tomatoes fell onto Alfred. Oh no, stupid 87546, he snarled. Rosie and 87546 were back at Hilltop Yards, unaware that George was right behind them. Gotcha now, said George when he arrived. Let's go, Rosie, you metallic cherry, he said. George's comment put tears in Rosie's face, and it made 87546 cross. How dare you speak to my best friend like that, said 87546. Oh yeah? And what's that gonna do? Said George. 87546 made up his mind. He bumped into George. This is for making my best friend cry with your bad name calling, said 87546. George plunged off the top of the hill. This isn't the end of me, he said. George landed onto Edward's train. Then George fell into a river, floating away downstream as he grumbled. That was great, said Rosie. You stood up for me. That's something I thought you'd never do since you reformed, she added. So boss, said Splatter, how else are we going to turn 87546 to our side now that George is defeated? Pondered Dodge. How about trying to ask him nicely, said Splatter. No! Playtime's over, boys! Snarled Alfred. Oh no, whimpered Splatter and Dodge. School's now in session, and I'll be your teacher, puffed Alfred. Today's lesson is, he said, how to stop being stupid. Alfred came off the tracks and crashed into a fence. Dust came on top of him. That will ruin my image, said Alfred. Oh, replied Splatter and Dodge. At Hilltop Yards, Rosie looked at her best friend with deep concern. Once Alfred is defeated, will Edward forgive me? Asked 87546. I'm sure he will, puffed Rosie. Meanwhile, Alfred and his two standing cronies, Splatter and Dodge, were hunting for Rosie. We won't stop until 87546 is on our side, said Splatter. Correct, said Alfred. They continued down the line. Unknown to Alfred, he was switched onto the wrong track, and both Splatter and Dodge came off the rails. Then they fell into a duck pond. Curse you, Signal Man, said Splatter. Then Alfred found out that Splatter and Dodge were defeated. From this point on, I'll do everything myself, he growled. Rosie and 87546 were cross when both of them heard Alfred's whistle. "Oh, it's you," puffed 87546. "Yes, I'm coming to get you," said Alfred. "You have no right to interfere with what me and 87546 are doing," said Rosie. "Get out of here, Alfred," puffed 87546. "This is no place for an engine like you." Alfred left at a loss for words. "I'm optimistic that he'll be defeated," puffed Rosie. "So am I," puffed 87546. Later, Alfred was at his abandoned rail yard lair. 87546, the incompetent blue engine is on the wrong side," he said. "I'm after Rosie, and once everything is done, he will have no other option but to submit to my every word." Alfred snorted. "These plans will not backfire, and stupid Rosie and 87546 have been one step ahead of me." "Later today, we'll defeat Alfred," said 87546. "Yes, that will be good," said Rosie. The plan was for both of them to split up so that it would be easy for 87546 to seize his moment to put Alfred in his place. Later that day, the plan begun. Rosie stopped at Knapford Station. "I know Alfred is after me, and me and 87546 take our trains here sometimes." Then Rosie heard a whistle. Alfred had found Rosie, which caused her to run off. "Get back here," he snarled. Rosie ran off in fright, with Alfred chasing her. Rosie saw that Alfred was getting closer and closer to her. "I should have known you put 87546 on the wrong side, and now I will do to him what I should have done years ago," he growled. Rosie and Alfred were nearing the Big Dipper. After Rosie got super far ahead of Alfred, she thought she lost him, until Rosie heard his whistle. Rosie was relieved to hear a different whistle. "This is my moment," said 87546. Both engines came onto the Big Dipper. "I'm not letting go of my past with you until you're defeated," puffed 87546. His driver got out some dynamite. Then he tossed it ahead of 87546, and then there was an explosion. "No!" screamed Alfred as he fell down the hole in the viaduct. 87546 watched as Alfred was falling. So long, 98462, said 87546 as he left the area. As he was leaving, he heard a thud.
How many times do I have to tell you? It's Alfred!
He said as he was going down the river on a barge. When 87546 got back to where Rosie was, Edward was there too. Stuttered 87546. I'm sorry I made fun of you all these years ago by constantly telling you that the driver will never let you out again. Please, will you forgive me? After what I saw, you are forgiven for your rude and spiteful behavior, Edward puffed. This put 87546 at a loss for words. You really do? Asked 87546. Of course, puffed Edward. When I saw you defeat Alfred, I realized that you are a different engine than the 87546 I knew years ago. Are you alright if we put our past with each other behind us and be friends? Asked 87546. Yes, puffed Edward. 87546, I knew this would happen, said Rosie. Soon, 87546 was so happy that he got to make a new friend named Edward, and that Alfred was gone. The barge kept going on, even into the Atlantic Ocean. Then it broke down.
This isn't the end, 87546,
said Alfred, who was still on the barge.
I'll be back, even if it takes days, months, or even years. I'm coming back, he said. And when I do, there will be all kinds of problems anyone can imagine on Sodor.
Jobs aplenty, 5, 10, 20 jobs for everyone. Jobs galore and still there's more jobs that must be done. Train it, you name it, then we all can say that at the time for gods will shine like new on Sodor Day. There's jobs for mainland engines and narrowgate as well. Jobs for workmen in the woods we choose to clear and fell. And guess who's trying hardest to do more than the rest? It's Thomas, but the others know they all will do their best. Jobs aplenty, 5 to 20 jobs for everyone. Jobs galore and still there's more jobs that must be done. Train it, you name it, then we all can say the time for gods will shine like new on Sodor Day. Emily and Gordon take fallen trees and rocks. James and Edward bringing stone while Henry's at the docks. And Toby tries for workmen to work with Jack and Nut. When Percy drops supplies, no time to rest at Tidmouth. Jobs aplenty, 5, 10, 20 jobs for everyone. Jobs galore and still there's more jobs that must be done. Train it, you name it, then we all can say the time for gods will shine like new on Sodor Day. Jobs aplenty, 5, 10, 20 jobs for everyone. Jobs galore and still there's more jobs that must be done. Train it, you name it, then we all can say the time for